Welcome back to The Silent Truth, the place where ordinary lives hide extraordinary stories. Every day, behind closed doors, there are moments that change people forever. Some of them are shocking, some heartbreaking, and some reveal truths we never expected to face. Today, I'll share with you a story that begins in the warmth of a family Christmas dinner but ends in a way no one could have imagined. Stay with me until the end because what happened inside one quiet kitchen is something that could happen to anyone, and the reason behind it is more terrifying than you think. It all started on Christmas Day. Families everywhere were gathering around decorated trees, exchanging gifts, sharing laughter, and enjoying meals together. The woman in this story, a mother and grandmother, was no different. She had been invited to her son's house to spend the evening with him, his wife, and their children. Christmas at her son's home was usually filled with joy and the kind of warm chaos only family can bring. The smell of roasted turkey and cinnamon pies floated in the air, carols played softly in the background, and the twinkling lights of the tree made the house feel alive with holiday spirit. She had dressed elegantly for the occasion. After all, it was Christmas and she loved making these moments special. Her silver hair was perfectly set, her pearl earrings catching the light as she smiled and hugged her grandchildren. The evening started beautifully. They exchanged gifts, laughed about old memories, and sat down at the table to enjoy the Christmas feast that her daughter-in-law had spent hours preparing. But as the meal went on, something felt off. Halfway through dinner, she noticed a strange heaviness in her stomach. At first, she dismissed it as overeating, maybe a little indigestion from the rich food. But then, a wave of dizziness washed over her, and a cold sweat broke across her forehead. She tried to stay calm, smiling faintly so no one would notice, but her hands trembled as she reached for her glass. Her son noticed she wasn't eating much and asked if she was okay. She reassured him quickly, not wanting to worry anyone during the festive evening. She excused herself, saying she just needed a glass of water, and slowly stood up from the table. Her legs felt weak, and she gripped the chair for balance before making her way to the kitchen. The kitchen was quiet compared to the laughter in the dining room. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. She leaned against the counter, trying to steady herself, and reached for a glass. But as she turned toward the sink, something caught her eye, something that made her stop cold. At first, she thought her dizziness was playing tricks on her. But no, her vision was clear. What she saw made her heart pound so hard she could barely breathe. Sitting on the counter, near the food that had been prepared, were several small, unlabeled containers. The lids were half open, and inside them were white powders and crushed pills. Her hands shook as she picked one up. Why were these here? What were they for? She recognized the shapes of some of the tablets, medications that didn't belong in cooking. And then it hit her. Had someone put these into the food? The thought made her stomach twist even more violently. Suddenly, memories from earlier in the evening rushed back. Her son's wife had been unusually insistent about everyone eating the same dishes. She had watched carefully as plates were served, almost as if making sure portions were eaten. The woman's mind spun. Was it possible that someone in this very house was trying to harm her, or maybe someone else at the table? Her breathing grew shallow. The dizziness was getting worse, not better. Something was already in her system. She knew. She didn't have much time to think. Without hesitation, she grabbed her phone from her bag on the counter and dialed 911. Her voice was low but urgent as she whispered into the phone, explaining that she might have been poisoned, that she was at her son's house, and that she needed help immediately. The operator kept her calm, asking her to describe her symptoms and what she had seen. The woman explained about the powders, the pills, the sudden sickness. Paramedics were dispatched right away. But as she waited, she couldn't help but glance back at the dining room, where her family continued laughing and eating, completely unaware of what she had just discovered. Panic gripped her heart. Should she run in and stop them? Should she scream that something was wrong? What if she was mistaken? What if she ruined Christmas dinner for no reason? Yet the sickness in her body told her otherwise. This was real. This was happening. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights lit up the street outside. The sound of sirens grew louder. Her son rushed into the kitchen, confused, asking what was going on. She could barely form the words as paramedics entered the house, quickly assessing her condition. They checked her pulse, her pupils, and immediately gave her oxygen as she started to fade in and out of consciousness. Her son's wife stood frozen in the doorway, her face pale, her hands clutching a dish towel. The paramedics collected the containers from the counter, sealing them into evidence bags. The police arrived shortly after, and the festive warmth of Christmas evening turned into a scene of shock and disbelief. The woman was rushed to the hospital, where tests confirmed she had ingested a dangerous mix of sedatives. The doctors told her bluntly, if she hadn't called for help when she did, she might not have survived the night. When police questioned the family, details began to unravel. It turned out that the powders and pills belonged to her daughter-in-law. Investigators soon discovered that she had been under financial strain and had taken out a large insurance policy on her mother-in-law. Her plan, it seemed, was to slowly poison her, making it look like natural illness, and then collect the money after her death. The revelation shattered the family. Her son was devastated, unable to believe that the woman he loved could plot something so cruel. The grandchildren were confused and frightened. And the mother, who had only wanted to spend Christmas with her family, was left with the painful truth that betrayal had been sitting across the dinner table all along. The case made headlines in their community. Neighbors were stunned. How could something like this happen in a quiet suburban home, during Christmas, of all times? But the reality is, evil doesn't choose a place or a season. It hides where we least expect it, behind smiles, behind traditions, even behind the walls of family. After her recovery, the woman spoke out, urging others to trust their instincts. She said, if something feels wrong, even in the safest of places, listen to that inner voice. She credited her survival to acting quickly, to not dismissing the strange symptoms or the uneasy feeling she had when she saw those containers. Her story is a reminder that sometimes, the truth hides in the most ordinary moments: a family dinner, a simple glass of water, a quiet walk into the kitchen. And as we reflect on it, we have to ask ourselves, how well do we really know the people around us? Can we ever be sure of their intentions? Or are some truths so silent, so deeply buried, that we only discover them when it's almost too late? This has been The Silent Truth, where we bring to light the stories that are hidden in plain sight. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others. Because the more we talk about the silent truths, the more we protect ourselves and those we love. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and remember, the truth may be silent, but it always leaves a trace.